Joe Flacco wasn't just struggling, he was screaming for a backup. And now, that backup might be none other than Shedeur Sanders. Let that sink in. After one too many, "What is he doing?" moments from Flacco, Kevin Stefanski stepped up to the mic and basically said, "Yeah, we're thinking about making a switch." Okay, not in those exact words, but his actual quote? "Shedeur is firmly in the mix." Which is NFL speak for, "Don't be surprised if he's starting next week." Now the Browns fan base is in a frenzy. Some are ecstatic, others are skeptical. But everyone is watching. Because Shedeur isn't just a rookie, he's a presence. The son of Coach Prime. The guy who says he's better than half the league's starters.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
The one who's been calm, cool, and unshakably confident since the day he walked in. And while Flacco was tossing ducks and fumbling like the ball was lava, Shedeur was standing on the sideline like a guy who knows his moment's coming. Patience? He's got it. Faith? Definitely. Swagger? Off the charts. But here's the twist. This isn't just about performance. It's about momentum. The Browns aren't just looking for a quarterback, they're looking for a spark. And Stefanski knows it. Giving Dylan Gabriel some snaps? That wasn't random. That was a preview. A test run. A sign that this team is done playing it safe. So now we're staring down what could be the boldest mid-season quarterback transition in recent Browns history. Will Shedeur crash and burn under the pressure? Maybe. Or will he be the lightning bolt that turns this franchise around? That's the gamble. And with Flacco's wheels clearly falling off, it's a gamble the Browns might be ready to take. Get ready, because this isn't just a QB switch, it's a full-blown storyline. And we're only in the first act. Shedeur is firmly in the mix. That line alone was enough to stop the NFL cold. It wasn't just a quote. It was a shift, a message, a signal that the Browns are done clinging to experience and are ready to look to the future, right now. This wasn't a one-off comment. It came after a game that exposed everything wrong with the Browns' current quarterback situation. Flacco's performance against Detroit was more than disappointing. It was damaging. A disastrous interception. A back-breaking fumble. No tempo. No rhythm. No ability to lead a functional offense. For a veteran expected to stabilize the team, he did the opposite. He cracked under pressure. Stefanski didn't have to say it explicitly. His tone did it for him. The Browns are pivoting. And Shedeur Sanders is next in line. Let's break this down. The Browns brought in Joe Flacco hoping he could be a bridge. A stopgap. A veteran who wouldn't necessarily win games on his own but could at least keep the offense on schedule. But in the NFL, those roles only work if the veteran leadership actually leads. And right now, Flacco is leading Cleveland nowhere. This game against Detroit? It was the tipping point. The Browns needed someone to keep the offense under control. What they got was a quarterback who looked out of sync from the first snap, made unforced errors, and couldn't protect the football when it mattered most. The interception in the first half flipped momentum instantly. The fumble was a complete breakdown in awareness and control. And the body language? Checked out. That's not a spark. That's a signal flare for help. So when Stefanski pointed toward Shedeur Sanders as being firmly in the mix, he wasn't just acknowledging the rookie. He was declaring that Flacco is no longer the answer. Now enter Sanders. This is the same quarterback who confidently told the world he's already better than many NFL quarterbacks. And while that quote sparked debate and eye rolls at the time, it now reads very differently. Because while Flacco's performances have steadily collapsed, Sanders has been waiting. Composed. Patient. Focused. He hasn't been sulking. He hasn't been begging for the job. He's been preparing. And now, his time may be here. Shedeur's confidence isn't just for show. It's backed by the reality that this Browns offense needs a jolt. A pulse. A sense of urgency. And let's be real, the fan base is fed up watching an offense that can't execute basic fundamentals. The spark Flacco was supposed to bring? Gone. The experience he was supposed to lean on? Irrelevant. The locker room, the fan base, and now the coaching staff have all seen enough. And this isn't just about one bad game. This is a pattern. Flacco's mistakes haven't just hurt the Browns, they've stalled the team's ability to compete. The turnovers, the lack of mobility, the inability to convert in high-pressure moments. It's the same story every week. And Stefanski? He knows he can't keep running the same playbook and expecting different results. That's why Sanders is next. The Browns didn't invest in young talent just to sit on their hands when the season's slipping away. The team has already been evaluating rookie quarterback Dillon Gabriel, another unproven player who has seen practice snaps and limited in-game looks. But there's no doubt about who Stefanski sees as the more serious option. Gabriel may be developing, but Sanders is firmly in the mix. Translation: this job might already be his. And the timing matters. Week 5 isn't just another game, it's a pressure point. If Sanders starts, it would come at a moment when the Browns have to choose a direction. Keep forcing Flacco under center, knowing exactly what you're going to get and what you're not, or give the rookie the start and start building for the rest of the season and beyond. Because that's what this decision really is, a long-term play. Joe Flacco, even at his best, was never going to be the future. He was a short-term patch. A temporary answer. But the problem is, short-term fixes stop working when they start costing you wins. And Flacco's not just ineffective, he's making critical mistakes that are killing games. That's not experience. That's regression. Shedeur Sanders, on the other hand, offers something different. Not certainty, but possibility. The potential to not just tread water, but to change the entire tone of the team. And Sanders hasn't been blind to this moment. He's stayed composed, leaning on patience and faith. He hasn't forced anything, and he's been outspoken about trusting in God's plan. That level of mental toughness? That's what you need from a rookie about to be thrown into the NFL fire. This isn't college anymore. It's not hype. It's real. Shedeur's not walking into a safe situation. The offensive line has issues. The playbook hasn't been flowing. The defense has been playing damage control. And the expectations? Sky high. But that's what the Browns are betting on. That even with all that, Sanders can be the guy to rise to the moment. Not just because of what he can do physically, but because of who he is mentally. And let's not pretend the Browns don't know exactly what this means. If Sanders succeeds, it changes everything. Stefanski keeps his job. The front office gets validation. The team has a direction. The narrative shifts. Suddenly, the Browns aren't a team unraveling. They're a team with a rising star at quarterback. A foundation. A future. But if it fails? Then what? That's the risk. If Sanders struggles, the team faces more questions. More instability. More pressure. But here's the thing. They're already living with all of that right now, without any upside. So why wait? The Browns have been stuck in quarterback limbo for years. This is their chance to finally break out of that cycle. Not by hoping for a miracle from a journeyman QB, but by putting their faith in someone they believe could be the answer. That's the moment Stefanski is stepping into. And from everything we've seen and heard, he's ready to make that call. Because what the Browns can't afford is to wait another week while Flacco fumbles another opportunity. What they can't afford is to ignore the momentum building around Shedeur Sanders, a player who has sat back, kept his head down, and trusted the timing. And now? That timing is now. So what's next? If Stefanski names Shedeur the starter, the NFL is going to tune in. Not for a gimmick. Not for a media moment. But to see whether this rookie, who said he's better than half the league starters, can back it up on the field. And if he does? The Browns just might have their quarterback of the future. It won't be perfect. It won't be easy. But it will be different. And for Cleveland? That's more than enough to believe in. So where do you stand? Is this the moment the Browns finally pull the plug on Flacco and start building something real? Is Shedeur Sanders the spark this team has needed all along? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Is Stefanski making the right call? And don't forget to subscribe for more breakdowns, bold decisions, and NFL quarterback chaos. Because in Cleveland, the quarterback story never ends, but maybe, just maybe, this one ends with a franchise finally getting it right. The weight of this decision doesn't just sit on Stefanski's clipboard. It ripples across the entire locker room. Every player on that roster knows what's at stake. Every offensive lineman, every wide receiver, every coach on that sideline, they've seen what happens when a quarterback collapses under pressure. And Flacco? He didn't just collapse. He disintegrated. The Detroit game wasn't just a bad look. It was a bad omen. The fumble didn't bounce off a defender. It didn't come from a blindside hit. It came from Flacco failing to protect the ball under minimal duress. A basic mistake. And it wasn't an isolated one. It came after a brutal interception that flipped the momentum like a switch. The Browns weren't just losing on the scoreboard, they were losing confidence. In their quarterback. In the system. In the entire offensive structure. That's the kind of unraveling Stefanski has to stop. Right now. You can't talk about competing in the AFC and roll out a quarterback who's coughing up possessions like a vending machine. You can't demand accountability from your receivers while trotting out a quarterback who can't deliver the ball without fear. The double standard? Everyone sees it. And so does Shedeur. Let's talk about that for a second. Because while the internet's been arguing about whether Sanders is ready, the man himself has remained calm, collected, and locked in. No cryptic tweets. No throwing shade at teammates. Just quiet confidence. The kind that doesn't need a mic drop. The truth is, Sanders has been preparing for this spotlight long before the NFL even came calling. He's handled more attention, more pressure, and more public scrutiny than most rookies could dream of. And not just because of his last name, because of the way he carries himself. There's a difference between arrogance and self-belief. And Shedeur? He walks that line better than most. His statement, "I'm better than a lot of these guys," wasn't just bravado. It was a thesis. A challenge. One that's looking less ridiculous by the day as Flacco continues to self-destruct and Sanders rises quietly in the background. And now? He's not just in the background anymore. He's center stage. This is where the mental game kicks in. NFL rookies don't just face fast defenses. They face unforgiving expectations. One mistake and the critics are screaming, "He's not ready." One missed read and the headlines write themselves. But here's the thing, Sanders already knows that. And he still wants the ball. You don't say, "I'm better than a lot of these guys," if you're afraid of what happens when you're wrong. You say that when you know what you bring to the table. And Shedeur's table? It's starting to look like a 3-course meal compared to the drive-through disaster the Browns have been dining on with Flacco. Let's talk locker room dynamics. When a team senses a changing of the guard, there are usually two camps, the loyalists and the hopefuls. But in Cleveland's case, there aren't many Flacco loyalists left. Not after that Detroit game. Not after a string of uninspired performances that left everyone wondering when the shift would come. The hope now lies squarely with Sanders. Players know talent when they see it. They know leadership when they feel it. And whether Shedeur has taken regular season snaps or not, he's been operating like a professional since day one. He studies. He listens. He shows up. And more importantly, he doesn't flinch under pressure. That counts for a lot in a league where confidence collapses by halftime. So now, the Browns have a chance. Not a guarantee. Not a miracle. But a chance to reboot the offense. To rally the locker room. To stop the bleeding before the season spirals. And that's why this isn't just about who starts under center. It's about who leads this team forward. Stefanski's been careful with his words, but the writing's on the wall. You don't talk about a rookie being firmly in the mix unless you're preparing for that moment. You don't praise his patience and mental toughness while your veteran starter crumbles unless you're laying the groundwork for a change. And you don't mention Shedeur Sanders by name unless you want the world to know what's coming. Because it's coming. Flacco was never a long-term solution. He was a placeholder. A what-if. A last-ditch fallback. And now that the fallback has failed, the Browns have no more excuses. They have to take the next step. And that step is Sanders. This isn't just a coaching decision. It's a culture decision. Are the Browns going to keep running on autopilot with a veteran whose best years are behind him? Or are they finally ready to bet on upside, on hunger, on a quarterback who actually believes in himself and has the tools to back it up? The answer is obvious. But so is the risk. Yes, Shedeur might make mistakes. He might throw picks. He might hold the ball too long, miss a read, or get swallowed by an elite pass rush. But so did every rookie before him. That's part of the deal. The key isn't avoiding growing pains, it's choosing who you're willing to grow with. And Flacco? There's no growing left to do. He's already arrived. And unfortunately, that destination is mediocrity. Sanders offers something more. Not just excitement, direction. And if the Browns want to be more than a footnote in another wasted season, they need direction fast. The schedule doesn't get easier. The AFC isn't slowing down to let Cleveland figure things out. If the Browns are going to make a push, or at least salvage the rest of the year, they need a spark. A shift. A quarterback who wants the moment instead of shrinking from it. Shedeur Sanders wants the moment. He's not hiding. He's not hedging. He's not managing the opportunity. He's embracing it. And Stefanski? He knows it. Because what's the alternative? Another Flacco start? Another press conference about execution and missed opportunities? Another Sunday where the offense stalls by halftime? Enough. It's time to stop protecting the past and start building the future. Shedeur may not be the perfect solution, but right now, he's the only solution that offers a path forward. So to the Browns front office, to Stefanski, to the fans, this is it. This is the moment where the excuses end and the decisions begin. Give the kid the ball. Let him lead. Let him fall. Let him learn. Let him grow. Because it's better to stumble forward than to sit in place while the season dies in real time. And if the Browns get this right, they don't just save the season. They start a new era. You want to talk about momentum? It doesn't just come from touchdowns and takeaways. It comes from decisions. And the Browns, for the first time this season, are staring down a moment that could reshape their entire identity. This isn't just about the quarterback on the depth chart. It's about the message you send to the locker room, to the fan base, to the entire league. If you stick with Joe Flacco after that performance in Detroit, what does that say? That turnovers are acceptable? That poor decision-making has no consequences? That a 38-year-old quarterback who just fumbled away a winnable game is somehow still the best option you've got? No one's buying that. Because Flacco didn't just lose the game. He lost the room. You could see it on the sidelines. The frustration. The body language. The wideouts running routes with no reward. The defense doing its best to keep the team afloat, only to watch their offense trip over itself again. And Kevin Stefanski? He saw it too. He didn't throw Flacco under the bus. But he didn't protect him either. That post-game quote, "Shedeur is firmly in the mix," wasn't just coach speak. It was Stefanski doing what he's been reluctant to do all season. Admit that it's time to move on. Let's not pretend this came out of nowhere. The signs have been there. Dylan Gabriel getting reps, offensive tweaks, an increasing urgency in Stefanski's tone. And now, the clearest one yet, Sanders being mentioned by name as a serious candidate for the job. It's a shift. And it's not subtle. Because when a coach starts signaling a quarterback change, there's no going back. You can't tease a fan base with hope and then retreat back to stagnation. Not in this league. Not in this city. Cleveland's quarterback history is already a carousel of regrets. Don't add another round to it by clinging to Flacco for comfort. Yes, Shedeur Sanders is a rookie. Yes, there's risk. But there's also reality. The current setup is broken. And you don't fix a broken engine by polishing the dashboard. You change the driver. And let's talk about the type of quarterback Sanders is bringing to the table. He's confident, maybe too confident for some people's taste. But in a league dominated by swagger and self-belief, that mindset is currency. You think Josh Allen doubts himself after a bad throw? You think Jalen Hurts second-guesses every read? They own it. They learn from it. They keep swinging. That's the kind of energy Shedeur brings. He's not cocky, he's certain. And when the alternative is a quarterback who looks like he's just trying not to mess up, you go with the guy who believes he can take over the game. And don't forget, this isn't just some overhyped rookie with a flashy social media presence. This is a player who's asked to be held to a higher standard. A player who's been scrutinized since day one and hasn't flinched. A player who believes he's better than many current NFL quarterbacks and now has the opportunity to prove it. That's the difference. Some quarterbacks want to be coddled through development. Sanders wants the smoke, the pressure, the reps, the expectation that if things go wrong, it's on him. You think Joe Flacco is giving you that? Flacco's at the stage of his career where he's playing not to lose. That might work on a team with a dominant defense and an elite run game. But on a team searching for identity? It's a dead end. You need a quarterback who wants to lead, not one who's trying to extend his career a few more games. And that's exactly what Stefanski seems to be signaling here. This isn't a PR stunt. It's not a flashy move to please fans. It's the head coach of the Cleveland Browns taking the temperature of his team and realizing the veteran isn't getting it done. The locker room needs someone, to rally behind. And Sanders, even without playing a regular season down, is already commanding more buzz, more belief, more hope than Flacco has in months. It's not even close. But let's not sugarcoat it. The move is risky. The spotlight is brutal. And if Sanders flops, the noise will be deafening. But that's how the NFL works. The question is no longer, is Shedeur Sanders ready? It's, are the Browns finally ready to find out? Because there's only so long you can wait before opportunity becomes missed opportunity. Sanders has done everything right off the field. Stayed quiet. Stayed prepared. And now, with the veteran option flailing, the moment is begging for someone, anyone, to grab it. And he wants to. That's the key here. Sanders isn't a reluctant rookie being pushed into the fire. He's a quarterback who has called his shot. So give him the mic. If he succeeds, he becomes the face of a franchise that has been wandering through quarterback purgatory for decades. If he stumbles, at least you know what you're working with. Either way, you're building towards something. But if you stick with Flacco, you're not building. You're stalling. And this team, this city, has waited long enough. Kevin Stefanski has a choice to make. Stick with the familiar and fade into irrelevance, or take the risk and potentially unlock a new era. So what's it gonna be? Because at this point, waiting is the worst decision you can make. If you're Stefanski and you've already opened the door, swing it all the way open. Give Shedeur Sanders the start. Not in Week 8. Not when the season is mathematically over. Let the kid play. Let him lead. Let him make mistakes. Let him grow. Because even if it's not perfect, at least it's progress. And the Browns? They desperately need progress. What do you think? Is this the right time to hand the keys to Shedeur Sanders, or should the Browns play it safe just a little longer? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you're as obsessed with NFL drama, quarterback chaos, and total team pivots as we are, hit that subscribe button. Because in the league of any given Sunday, you better believe the future starts this week.